Everybody, welcome to another episode of ArmTalk. I'm your host, Jody Williams, and today I got Team Popeye. I got one half yet, but the other one's about to come on momentarily. But right now, I got Timothy. You go by Tim or Timothy?
This is Chris. Timothy's my
Chris.
father.
Yes. See, making mistakes already. That's how nervous I am about you guys coming on the show. Chris, welcome to the show. Now, not to tell everybody all the, stuff about last weekend because I don't want to get in trouble by Greg Sharp or anything because it was filmed or anything. But tell me something. What were your thoughts on last weekend's Southwest qualifier in Fort Worth, Texas?
It was a great experience. There was a little bit of a learning curve. The way they start off the matches and also has the 3 fouls. That is just a little bit different. But besides that, the way everything was ran, it was super smooth. You couldn't ask for TAL was there helping with the brackets and all of that. You couldn't beat it. It was a very smooth running tournament, and it had a lot of excitement, a lot of good matches. I wish I could talk about, but I can't. But it was a great experience.
Now, Chris, here's one thing: when you go to a tournament like that and you want to say something, but you can't because there was production there, and it's almost like you had to be there. You know what I mean? So it's okay though. Now, as you and I were talking last week, and we were chit-chatting off to the side, watching some awesome matches and stuff, and I had asked you a question. Do you remember me asking you about who was your team, who do you train with, and what did you tell me?
It was me and my father.
And, I got a lot of friends in Texas too, but I honestly thought there was like a group of you guys that trained together. Because I was going to ask you and kind of pick your brain like, hey, how do you guys train? What do you guys work on? Anytime I go outside my region and compete, and then I'm always asking people, well, how do you guys train? Because there's no one specific way to train. And when you told me it was just you and your dad, I'm like going, you're kidding me, right? Like just you and you guys, but you guys travel a lot, right?
Yeah, so we enjoy going to all the TAL events here in Texas and all of that. We do try to travel at least once or twice outside of the state to kind of get some more experience, and you get to meet a variety of people. And then you have my dad; he's going to Greece for the Worlds, for the IFA Worlds, and all of that, and that's his thing. Right now, I'm kind of having to stay a little bit inside the U.S. just because I have a small 1-year-old child. So, but we always try to branch out a little bit because there's always something going on somewhere. Not necessarily just Texas, but you can go up north or last year we went to Alabama. It just it's a different experience, a different group of people. It's all about the camaraderie. We always like to communicate with different people, and arm wrestling should be a big old family that you can walk up to someone and say, I've seen you before, but I've never got to introduce myself. Let me say hi.
Yeah. Now, and your dad's saying he's having a hard time getting in, so I resent the link to him. So hopefully he can figure that out. The first time I met your dad was at the 2021 IFA World Championships. And it was cool because I got my picture taken with 2 Popeyes because you got Jeff Dave, who's been known as Popeye, and then your dad's been known as Popeye for years and years. So that was kind of cool. I probably should have posted that too, but that was pretty awesome. So tell me something. What are your accolades in the sport? Like what kind of titles have you won?
I've won. So I've won multiple different tournaments. I have some golds, I have some silvers, some bronze. I've not won like a national championship yet, but a lot of tournaments. I think I was counting right before you got on because I was kind of curious. I have about 10 medals. I think it's 2 golds, 4 silvers, and the rest are bronze. But yeah. I think the real big accomplishment is that 2 years ago, I only started 2 years ago. I started my first tournament. I weighed 242 pounds.
200 what?
42 pounds.
Really?
Yes. I think it was with a 6 or 9 month period, I dropped all the way down to 198.
Wow.
And it was just one of those things. The first time you go to an arm wrestling tournament, the first time you pull on that table, you just get hooked. It is, and then, I already knew, I actually lost both hands, no wins, no nothing. But the experience is like, okay, this was enjoyment for me. This is what I want to do, and I want to proceed. But I also knew I was coming in super heavy. I think I trained with my father for a week just playing around, and it just takes something small like that for you to realize you're gonna really want to sink your teeth into it and work really hard for it.
Right. Now, Dan Plexman, my friend from Canada, has a question. I know the answer, but he wants to know, hey, Chris, do you plan on going to Greece, as in for the IFA World Championships?
So unfortunately, I'm not able to go just because, I have a 1-year-old daughter. Also, my honeymoon was supposed to be in Greece, but it was during the COVID time. Right. And my wife told me I am not allowed to go to Greece without her. So eventually I'm going to go to Greece, just not on this trip.
Right. Well, I mean, hey, I understand how that goes, So tell me something, because, and I've been in this sport for like 14 years, and you meet some awesome people in the sport, right? Like I've always said this before, it's like a brotherhood, it's like a fraternity, things like that. But on the other side of the coin, you also meet some not so good people in the sport. And I remember there was a video I was scrolling, and there was a match, I think it might have been 3-4 years ago, maybe. And it was a match between you and Nanya. And I was like, oh God, and he's a character, but he makes it real difficult to like him. He makes you want to kind of punch him in the face, so to speak, But I was watching that match, and I know deep down you were trying to keep your composure, but then Nanya has a tendency to kind of push people's buttons, and you got to kind of keep your composure. I know your dad probably had to step in and go, hey, $1,000 you and me, that kind of thing. And what I liked about that was that your dad stepped up and go, hey, you're not going to be embarrassing the family name, come at me with that. And you kept your composure, and I like that. So take us back to that moment with you and Nanya was being himself, I guess. Take us back to that moment when you guys had your match.
So there was a lot leading up to that match, and me and Nanya we were shooting back and forth at each other. It was just one of those things. It had a great build up. It was, Nanya has his personality. He has what he likes to call his character, which I stepped into it, and I think the best part about it was I think I stepped into it a little early. I think at that point, I was right at a year into the sport. Mm-hmm. So, as soon as you get all of that light on you, it's, it can be a little intimidating. But the good part is, you keep your composure and you do what you can. With that match, I will tell you, I have learned so much. I respect that match. I respect Nanya, because after that match, we talked, and it was everything was, we did the match, we had a great time, and after that, we're cordial. He's actually a really nice guy. So with that being said, I learned a lot, and I tell him, if someone ever comes and says something bad about it, or bad about that match, or bad about, when everything is all said and done, I learned a lot. I respect him, and I actually think in the next year or so, Nanya's actually going to start really progressing outside of that character and actually becoming someone that is not going to be someone who lashes out. He's going to go into different tournaments, different super match scenarios as more of a respectable person than people trying to really, really get under his skin or talk bad about him.
Right. And like I said, I think, some people seem to think, and if it's natural, it's natural. And you have that character in the sport. And, not everybody needs to have a character, Some people are naturally like, that's just who they are. Some people, if they're not that way and they try to act a certain way, people can see right through it. It's like going, okay, this is not you. Then it could be a turnoff, Now, when you're in this sport and you're training, and I've always had jealousy of people living down south, arm wrestling wise, because there's a lot more per capita than there is where I'm at in the Northwest, right? So, for example, we'll take the Texas Arm Wrestling League, and I've talked to Sarah McKinney about this time and time again. I think I might have chatted with Billy Ortegas about this, but where Texas is so huge, like literally huge. I mean, my state of Oregon could probably fit inside that and then some. But the Texas Arm Wrestling League, you really don't have to go anywhere outside of Texas to compete unless you want to, So how many qualifiers do you guys have to qualify so that way you guys can go to the Texas State Championships? I think it's in November, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it's November 16th.
Okay.
I believe there's 4, maybe 5 qualifiers. I'm not for sure off the top of my head. I know at least 4.
Okay.
But from where I'm from, it's going to be a 2-hour drive all the way up to an 8-hour drive, just depending on what part of Texas you're at. So,
because you got the North qualifier, the South, the Central, the East, and it might be the West, I think. But I was looking at kind of going, man, I mean, that's pretty awesome. So like when it comes to Texas State, how big are the entries? Kind of give everybody an idea about that.
I mean, last year it was packed. I want to say there was like 250 people there. I mean, the place was packed. There was people all the way up against the wall watching, and it was an amazing time, though. And the way they run it is what they do is they normally run the amateurs first from the beginning till about, I think it's like 3 o'clock. Then at 3 o'clock, they'll start the open divisions. So that way there's a little bit of a separation. You get to watch the amateurs. You get to really see them going. And then the open class will start going also right around 3 o'clock, which I think it's great to watch the amateurs pull all the way through and then be able to watch the open class pull all the way through. Nice. That way, I've seen it a couple of times. You get that burnout where you're just waiting. It's a longer tournament, but with that split, it makes it go smoothly. It's enjoyable, and you get to see both sides of people just starting and people who's been there for a long time.
Right. Well, your dad's watching. He couldn't get in. He has some technical difficulties. I resent the link, but he kind of sent me a photo back like it just couldn't connect for whatever reason. So he is watching the show. So Tim, my friend, welcome to the show. Feel free to jump in with some comments or questions. So do you think at some point Texas State might be needed for a 2-day event? Because it sounds like it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where you're getting to a point now where like the venue can't hold the state title or state tournament because it's getting so big with entries.
I do think it could eventually get to that point. I want to see what it looks like this year. I believe that they combined the Texas State maybe with the Arnold qualifier. And I think just for that aspect alone, I think a lot of people are going to be coming in just to pull that tournament.
Okay, so you could kind of maybe add on 50 more entries on top of that for the sake that it is going to be a Arnold qualifier. But I'm telling you, like, it makes me excited. I've been to Texas twice now to compete, and I'm telling you, the array of talent down there. And I get excited because let me ask you this before I go on. Do you ever get to a point where in your area, when you go to tournaments, it's the same guys over and over again?
No.
Okay.
There's always someone different.
Because look how much you guys got look at the pool you guys got. Where I'm from, it's the same guy. There's a good and bad thing about that. The good thing is the fact that you can create some little friendly rivalries, But at the end of the day, you kind of go, okay, that's nice and all. And trust me, I like that. But then there's a party that want to go, I want to know where I stand outside of my comfort zone, so to speak, outside of my region. Let me go elsewhere. I've been to Waxahachie, a few years back and did an event down there. I went to Fort Worth, last weekend and stuff, and I got a taste of some of those guys down there. So for me, it's exciting for me to go, okay, if what I'm doing training-wise, is it paying off? Let's find out. You go down to Fort Worth, and I'm kind of going, worked on some, not so much on the others. So now it's back to the drawing board. Have you ever felt that way before?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen some guys that will go to all the tournaments in Texas. Some guys, they'll stick in the Houston area, they'll stick into the Dallas area, or so you will see reoccurring guys, and you'll see the guys that are only going to stay in their region. Um, I just read who's next for Popeye Jr. Right
House from Roger Learn.
now. So my next super match, I'm not for sure. I really haven't found anyone that's like, oh, I really want to pull him, or oh, it's really exciting me right now to pull this guy. No, I'm just enjoying the experience right now, pulling the tournaments, the camaraderie with everyone, and I just enjoy going and talking and all of that. So I do not have a next opponent. I don't even know of anyone that I'm really interested in pulling. Well,
Hey, look who's on the show. What's up, man? You figured it out.
Finally figured it out. At my age, this computer is old school. So normally I have my grandkids come and help me, or Christopher helps me, and I'm like freaking out and forgetting everything.
Well, you know what?
I just had to hit one button, open in Chrome, and I just accidentally found it.
Hey, that's a good thing. Sometimes it's always better to be lucky than good. So you know what? You made it on the show. Welcome to the show. As you chimed in, the question was from Roger Learn, a former Texan, by the way, who says he needs to come back and make a name for himself. But the question Roger had for Chris was that who was exactly his next opponent? But before I get to that, so Chris, what weight class are you competing at?
198.
Okay, so what studs are in that 198 class in Texas, or in your area, Texas?
It's a big list. I don't even know where to start on that list. The one person that really stands out is like Danny Gillian. He's 190. That dude's a beast. So he's one of the guys that I enjoy pulling him. I'm not at his level, but every time I pull him, I am learning something. And
Yes.
He's been a friend of the family for so long. It's one of those things. I get excited just when I hear my name called up against him.
Now, Chris, you and I were talking. I'm not going to tell the whole show who he was competing with, but you and I were watching a match with Danny Gillian, and you and I were talking back and forth like, man, this guy is just nails. This guy, he puts it together, and he keeps coming, doesn't stop. And like I said, you had to be there. You had to be there to witness that. Again, for production purposes, Chris and I will not tell you who he was pulling. However, we will tell you that he was balls to the walls, pulling so hard, and man, it was awesome to see a guy like that just compete like no other. And I was excited to pull. You were telling me, hey, this is the guy right here. And I've seen Danny pull over and over because he's traveled a lot too. And to watch him, if you watch him on video, it doesn't do it justice. You watch him in person, then you understand what everyone's saying. You understand what Chris has been saying. You understand why Chris is so in awe when you talk about, Danny as a lifelong family friend, right?
Right. Yeah, and yeah. Y'all just have to tune in for that match. It's hard not to say anything, but that's like they're talking about your the next adventure you have for Mr. Sharp. That's what I was telling you. He's one of those guys. He's gonna drive. He's gonna dig in, and he doesn't stop. That's what he does.
And he had that crowd. It was loud, but it was like, wow, the atmosphere was amazing. So now let's shift gears to Big Popeye, my friend. You and I first met at the 2021 IFA Worlds in Orlando, Florida. And my man, you've traveled a lot. You've been in the sport long enough. You've been to Worlds. Why don't you tell everybody your experience in this sport?
I tell you what, the greatest experience in this sport is the fellowship with the other arm wrestlers. Is second to none. Because if you you can be enemies on the table and then friends afterwards. It is spectacular. The friendship, it is. I mean, they're willing to help you if you're in trouble. I'll give you an example. I got stranded in Dallas coming back from Mexico one time. I put on my Facebook page, "Hey, can anybody give my wife and I a ride home?" And a couple friends, they said, "Oh, I'll come get you for $300." And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess." And then next thing you know, Robbie Hennigan calls and says, "Popeye, I'm on my way." And it was awesome. The arm wrestling community is closer than your friends.
Yes.
You know, and when you travel around the world, you know, I have a good friend, Stu Levens. You know Stu, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Michelle and I and Stu and Alice, we travel around the world together. It is absolutely spectacular. The friendship, I mean, it's unbelievable, unbelievable. And
Nice.
you know, that's what I keep saying to everybody. We have friends around the world that we don't even know, but they know us.
Oh yeah. And here's the thing. And before you got on the show, I was talking with Chris, and I was like saying, "Hey, Chris," and I actually asked him this question, last weekend. Like, I thought, because Popeye, I mean that's the name in Texas. And I asked him, I was like, "Well, Chris, who do you and your dad train with?" And Chris told me it was just us. I'm like, "You're kidding me." He goes, "No, I mean, we'll travel here and there, but for the most part, it's us." So, one of you guys tell me, what does the actual Team Popeye training look like?
You know, I'm going to give you an example. When I first started training with Christopher, I thought it was going to be father and son hoo-ha visit time. And it is far from that. It is pain and gain from the time you get there to the time you leave. It is absolutely the time together that we spend is priceless. I never dreamed of having this kind of relationship with my son. You know, you always have a father and son relationship, but an arm wrestling father and son team relationship, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, it is unbelievable. And we push ourselves to the limit. We don't hold back. If I'm getting ready for a tournament and Chris is not, he comes over and he pushes me further than I can ever push before. And the same thing, if we go to a tournament together, it's the same thing. Oh, you only done 10? Well, I'm going to do 12. If you're do 12, I'm doing 15. Oh my gosh. But the biggest mistake I made one time, funny story. We were working out and I was fully exhausted. And I
Right.
was going to finish the workout. And I turned to Christopher and I said, 5 more minutes. Just give me 5 minutes and we can finish. Man, I heard 5 more minutes for the next month. That's all he kept saying. Dad, you need 5 more minutes. So rule number 1, don't say 5 more minutes.
Right. Well, the thing is though, is that that bond you said you guys got, and it's it's a bond that cannot be broken. And like I was telling Christopher earlier, where he had a match with Nanya, and you were in his corner. I'm thinking, okay, when you got somebody that passionate in your corner, it kind of gives you an extra percentage of like strength, if that makes sense. And
Yep.
I'm sure Chris is in your corner for matches and stuff, and that's the kind of thing you always remember. And I'm sure now that Chris has a young one, they get into it. It may be a third generation. You never know. A third generation Popeye in this sport. And I'm telling you right now, it's a bond that can't be broken. Do y'all agree?
Oh,
Absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. The bond we have is you can't beat it. I'll tell you right now, when he's pulling, you're going to hear me. If I'm not at the tournament, you're going to hear me in my house. I'm yelling at that television or whatever I'm watching it on. You're going to hear me rooting for him.
Well, you're going to be yelling at him through the TV since you can't go to Greece and stuff. But I tell you what, though, I'm not sure where. I know next year's Nationals will be back in Dayton, Ohio. So I would imagine you're going to go there. Now we'll probably know by the end of the year where next year's IFA Worlds will be. But now that Chris, you cannot go this year, is your brain going, okay, I got to train hard because I want to be able to go to the IFA World Championships in 2025? Is that on your docket?
Right now, I'm training hard. Yes. Is that on my docket? I think I have a couple of other smaller goals I want to get to, but ultimately, yes. you know, it would be an awesome experience for me and my dad to pull out the worlds together. But you know, for me to get there, I have a couple of smaller goals I want to really accomplish first. You know, really start amping up my competition. So that's kind of what my goal is this year. We're putting it in. You know, we're doing 2-a-days. You know, we work out at 4 a.m. till about 5:30. Then then at the end of the day, around like 5:30. We do a second workout on our own. So I have my gym at my house, his gym at his house. So, 4 o'clock, I meet him at his house, and then.
Did you say 4 o'clock? You've never been here at 4 o'clock. It's like 3:30, 3:20. Dad, we're working out at 4 o'clock. I've never seen him here at 4 o'clock.
Well, this segues to my next question because Chris, you just said there's a couple of events you want to, focus on first. So, Popeye, Chris, I'm going to ask you this. Come November, that I know of, there's 2 events that I'm sure you guys will be at. One, I'll see you at. That's the first one. Okay, here we go. November 2nd, San Diego, California. A birdie told me that Team Popeye will be in the house for the WSA World Series of Arm Wrestling Finals. Is that true?
It looks like the plan right now. Now, remember, though, I'm not getting back from Greece until October 18th. So that's only 2 weeks away. So I got to make sure, I guess when I come back from Greece, I got to make sure I'm in weight.
Yeah. So that would be, what weight class would that be in? Well, first of all, what weight class are you going to be in at Worlds? And then what weight class are you going to be at the finals?
I'm always at the Worlds. The last 3, I've been to 3 World Championships, podium 6 times out of 3 World Championships, and I weighed in at 172.
Okay.
I always weigh. I usually stay between 165 and 174 to 177. Depends how much I eat on the weekend or a holiday.
Well, let's be weird. I mean, this is before Thanksgiving, so but. Also, if that's the case, then Chris will be like Jones, and Chris will be sitting up there working out. Dad, we got to start working out at 2:45 in the morning. I got the finals coming up, November 2nd, San Diego. However, 2 weeks after that, it doesn't stop because then it's what? The Texas State Championships?
Well, for me, I probably are going to skip the Texas State because Leroy's got a big tournament coming up, brother.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. LeRae Jenkins has his in Tennessee.
So we're already signed up for that one.
We're already signed up and paid. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. We are.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. Let's just put Texas State on the back burner, and everybody in Texas, this is no disrespect, but looks like Team Popeye got some other things on the horizon. So that will take place in December. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say the weekend, the 7th and 8th, something like that.
That is correct.
Tennessee. So tell me something. And I'll ask you first, Chris. What do you expect out of that? Because we got some studs coming to that tournament. And at the 198 class, my friend, everybody's going to have their hands full. You tell me what you got in store for those guys.
I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to work harder than I've ever worked to get there. But the actual expectations I have is the camaraderie. I want to see everyone there. I want to meet everyone that's in that class. And anytime you grip up with someone that is a couple levels above you, you're going to learn something. This is going to be for me to learn more than anything, but I am going to bring the heat as hard as I can.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm going to say something. I want you guys' response. And I got to be careful because I don't want people, getting on my show, giving me heat or trying to kick me off my own show. That tournament is the equivalent, and the key word is equivalent, of a national because of the array of talent in each class, no matter what. So I don't want to sit there and, and get everybody all upset about that's not a national. No, I'm going to say it one more time. That tournament that LeRae's putting on is like the equivalent of a national because of all the talent. So you guys give me your response to what I just said over there.
I'll give you my this is the way that I look at it. Team Popeye is afraid of nobody. Absolutely nobody. And if you were at the World Series, you would see the guys that I pulled. One of my opponents was 108 pounds more than me. Did that scare me? Absolutely not. Do I think I can win the tournament? Probably not, but I will make a show. My goal is to show up and put out 100%. No stopping, no giving up, and no quitting. Whatever falls, it falls. I mean, the truth is, we're probably outgunned, outmatched, out everything, but who don't love an underdog?
Hey, I know about underdogs because I'll be the underdog come September 28th against Mega Mike, so I know that firsthand. So
correct. But we're going to give it 100%, everything we have, and you know what? That's all we can ask for, because at the end of the day, there's a winner and there's going to be a loser. No ifs, ands, or buts. You know, and if we accomplish a few wins in there and meet a few people, because if you don't pull the best, how are you going to be the best? If you don't pull the best, how are you going to learn from pulling the best? That's the way that I look at it.
Yes. Chris, your thoughts on that?
He already took it all. You know, like I say, it's the experience. You go to these big tournaments because you want that experience. You want to see what you can do. You never know what could happen. You know, something could happen and Team Popeye comes in there and just goes crazy. But more than anything, all of those guys that are at that top level are so nice and so respectful, to where that's the experience you're looking for. That's the camaraderie you're looking for, and that's how you're going to progress.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I always got to say this, and I know sometimes this topic raises my blood pressure. So I got to say it though. So Tim, have you ever pulled in WAF Worlds before?
Have I ever what?
Have you ever pulled in the WAF WAF Worlds?
The national championship.
Okay. So we got this WAF, we got this IFA and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm not real keen on people getting banned and all that kind of stuff, because I've always thought, how is somebody going to tell me I can't represent my country when it comes to our sport of arm wrestling, or if you compete here, you'll get banned? And I always got to ask people what their thoughts were. Like, what do you guys land as far as people getting banned, or you can't pull in this tournament, or you can't pull in that tournament and things like that? Where do you guys stand with all that?
Let me show you this really quick. This is their gold medal that I won at their national championship.
Okay.
So I spend all my money going to the national championship. Then after I win the national championship, they tell me I can't go to Turkey. This was 2 years ago. And I said, why? They said, well, you pull IFA. If you give it up, you can come. I was like, why would I give up who I am? I'm an arm wrestler. Don't tell me where I can and can't go. I'm not a child. But I was really disappointed that I spend basically $1,000 or more, fly my wife and I down there, get a hotel, compete at the tournament, and then afterwards find out. And I have to admit, the tournament was run great. They drug tested. Actually, yeah. I got drug tested for the first time, and it was at that tournament. Didn't bother me at all.
Hey, how'd that feel?
Oh man, have you ever been drug tested at a tournament?
No.
Well, we are on the stage, and they give you these 3 colored balls. You grab one, and I grabbed the red one. And Jeff Hale was the referee. As soon as I grabbed the red ball, he stood next to me, took me to the nurse. Jeff and the nurse went to the corner of the bathroom for me. And I'm an old man, so I can really pee a lot. Well, I couldn't pee at all.
Hey,
and then
were you nervous?
Absolutely. Well, Jeff would, not because of the test and anything. It was just, there's a woman watching you. There's a man behind you. And Jeff Hale is standing there flushing all the urinals, turning on the faucets for me to pee in front of him. It was hilarious. And then after I peed in the cup and went and done it, man, I had to go back to the restroom because I had to pee so bad.
Now,
But
the only time I get nervous at a tournament, is when all of a sudden the tournament starts and all of a sudden, hey, 242 class, get ready. Then all of a sudden I got to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
And it's the weirdest thing. I don't know why, but when my class is called up is when I have to go. I'm thinking,
yep. It's all age. Granted, I'm 65 years old,
right.
and I am truly, truly living an American dream. I mean, when I started this, I never dreamed of going across the world. I mean, unbelievable. And then as a bonus, I never dreamed of my son competing and working out with me. Also, another dream. I never dreamed of people asking me to say a prayer with them or for the tournament or anything like that. It's, God works in so many different ways and he puts everything in your path. It's just a true, true blessing.
Yes. Now, Chris, have you ever been drug tested in arm wrestling before?
I have not.
Okay. And I haven't either. I'm sure at some point it may happen one of these years, but I tell you what, I have a crazy story about making weight at a national. I'll tell you that. So you got to remember when I got into the sport in late 2010, I was a 198 guy walking, right? As you get old, you put on some pounds and you start going to the gym more because I didn't do all that kind of stuff. And then I remember the 2012 Nationals was in Reno, Nevada. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm walking around like 200. So 198 is not a big deal. And my teammate got my ear and he was like saying, you got to go one weight class down. I'm like, why do I have to do that? He goes, because the guys who are 220 are coming to 198. And in hindsight, 2020. So for me, I was like, okay, fine. So what I did, I was never a wrestler in high school, so I kind of starved myself. So I just kind of, okay, we're going to do nothing but fruit and salad the week leading up to it and see what happens. A lot of cardio and stuff. And I'm trying to make the 187-pound class. So we drive down to Reno. It's about a 6-hour drive from where I'm at in Central Oregon. So we drive down there, like to the point where we got wads of gum spitting out in the cup, We pull over in the middle of the highway, got the scale out of the trunk of the car, step on there. Oh, man, I got 3 more pounds to lose. All right, let's keep going. Drinking water, stopping at a restaurant, or at a AM/PM gas station, use the bathroom. We're trying everything, right? We finally arrive. I'm still, got some work, some weight to cut. No big deal. We go to the sauna. We go to the steam room. We're doing everything, right? And I come back down, almost passed out, by the way, because I didn't know what I was doing. I come down there. I hop on the scale, and the scale said I'm 2 ounces over. Now, you got to remember, when it's the Nationals and Worlds, they don't care. No, you got to be this weight or under, or you ain't competing that weight, period. Yep. And I'm like, I came this far. I got to do whatever it can. If that means I got to go to the store and get like a shopping bag or whatever and run laps, whatever. But I didn't have time because at that point, 10 minutes and then registration was closed. So I'm thinking, damn, what do I do? So the guy. Everybody good? Sorry about that. I said, no, you got 5 more minutes. You can go in there for another steam room session, come back down, or you can take off your wedding ring, drop the trowel, and see what happens. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I'm behind the curtain. My teammates are making a wall like this, and I got the guy standing there by the scale. So I'm thinking, all right, here we go. I drop trowel, take off my wedding ring, and when you know it, I was 187 pounds on the dot. I'm like, cool. Hurry up and look at it before it might change again.
Right.
Cool. Got my stuff back on. I go upstairs to the food court, right? And this is back when y'all remember that sandwich place Quiznos? You remember those? Yeah. I go to Quiznos. I get like the foot-long roast beef sandwich and like the biggest Dr. Pepper you can have. I took 3 bites of that sandwich and couldn't finish it. I was full because my stomach had shrunk. So I was like going, oh, my God. Now, fast forward, the next day is tournament day. All right, here we go. 187-pound class. I'm feeling fast. but I didn't have any strength. And
Right.
so, when you in this sport, you sample things, you kind of go, okay, I'll never cut weight like that again. And that was my mistake. But it's a trial and error, right? So I'll never do that again. But has any one of you guys had any kind of stories about that as far as making weight?
Hey, Christopher, tell them about your naked experience in Alabama.
Woo!
So I was coming off of I was weighing 220. We were 8 weeks out to Alabama State.
Yeah.
And at that point I was working out and everything, and I was on a diet for the last 6 months, and I was keep on going until I was satisfied where I'm at. 8 weeks out, I said, let's do it. I'm going in, and I'm weighing 198, and I'm pulling 198. We got there, and we actually did a family vacation. My wife went, my mom went, so it was all fun. And then I was telling my dad, I'm about 3 pounds off. I'm 3 pounds off. It's all good. This is about 6 hours before weigh-in.
Right.
Comes the time of weigh-in, I weighed myself, and I was a half a pound off, and I could not get it off for nothing. I mean, just nothing. I tried to sweat. I ran a treadmill for an hour and a half, and I just could not lose that pound and a half. And it was super cold outside, so you're not going to really release any sweat. So it was like, right. And then my dad's like, just load up. We're gonna turn on the heater. We're just gonna go and see what happens. We get there, and he was talking to the people that was weighing us in, and my dad goes, he's about to drop all the way down. So they pulled out the curtain, dropped all the way down, had nothing on, 198 on the dot.
You see what I mean? The stuff we go through as arm wrestlers to make weight, and it's like you tell people these stories, and it's like they look at you like they don't believe you, like you're making it up. But these are bona fide stories. All right, Tim, your turn. What story you got?
Okay, this was in Corpus Christi. And normally at this time, this is before I started pulling 172 class.
Right.
I normally pull 176. And it was Easter Sunday. They called me and said, hey, Popeye, we want you to come down and pull in our tournament. Gabriel Velasquez is going to do a live chat, and we want you to monitor it to her. And then we want the radio stations come in and have you talk with them.
Right.
And this is after Easter Sunday I ate. And then they said, we want you to pull in a 170-pound class. And I've never pulled 170 at that time. It was my first tournament. Right. So all week I crashed diet. On the way down there, I was still about 3.5 pounds overweight. I put a sauna suit on, turned the heater in the car, drove all the way down there. But this is when you learn if you've never cut weight. Cutting weight is the easy part. Rehydrating is the smart part, which I didn't know how to do. Right. So I get down there, and I'm in my sauna suit, and I finally strip everything and dry it off and go weigh it in at 170 on the dot. No weight allowance. And then the first thing I do is I get a great big cheeseburger and French fries and a couple Gatorade. The next morning, I felt like not good. Right. I mean, I didn't know how to rehydrate. I was drinking Gatorade and not water. And I was slow. I'm usually pretty fast for my size, but I had no energy, slow. It was crazy, and that's where I decided I am never going to crush weight like that again. But it was the first time. Now we pulled 4 or 5 times at 165 now without crushing weight. We just, right. If we're going to a tournament, we know what our weight is. Boom, we're there. We went
the rule that we do not cut weight anymore. It takes
we don't cut weight.
If he can't make weight, we're not going. And you need to make weight at least 3 days prior.
And and here's the thing, because in my mind I'm thinking, man, should I go ahead and cut to that weight class? And it's a life change. I'm sorry, but my wife is a hell of a cook, so there's a good chance.
Yeah.
I might not, make those. I made a comment in the chat because my good friend Paul Stevens, he was in that 232 class last year, or I'm sorry, 239 class in the World Series of Arm Wrestling, But now he's cut to 209, and so he's killing it right now. And I sat there and said, should I cut to 209? And Paul said, you should. And I know it's a lifestyle change, you know, but it's a little different now. It's a little harder now when you're older. Like, you know, Paul could probably do it because I think Paul, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, Paul, if I'm wrong, but when you're an ex-wrestler, amateur wrestler in high school, whatever, you know how to do that kind of stuff. I was never that guy. So for me, cutting weight is kind of difficult. But have you guys ever been in a situation where, and this is where one thing I really hope Arm Wrestling would do, one of many, if every organization had the same weight classes straight across.
That would be really nice. That would be because you know what your weight is, you know,
Right.
and the thing is, when you're like, for me, I can pull 165, 172, 176 right now. You know, but I won't cut no lower than 165, but I'm there before, you know, we drove to Beaumont and I weighed in that day at 165. I didn't even weigh in the day before to have to cut weight. We just watched what we did and we had our target point. And, but the thing is, you know, it really baffles me when I see a lot of people that cut weight, and in my mind, I'm thinking, is that healthy? You know, what is your health going to pay for? You know, at 65, I would be afraid to drop 15, 20 pounds in a week. I mean, to me, it's not even logical, but a lot of people do it, and that's what they're consistent on it.
Right. Well, the reason why I couldn't do that is because when you go to an event, and I don't care what sport, we're talking UFC, boxing, arm wrestling, whatever, any kind of sport that requires a weight category, you always want to approach the event in shape, feeling good and healthy and strong. And, you know, my experience with the Nationals in 2012, it was horrible for me. You know, I mean, I went there and it was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. But if I was going to cut weight, I should have done it smarter. So the other side of that, 2017, okay, went to Nationals. And I'm like, okay, because now at that point, I'm able to pull masters. I'm like, cool, I can go ahead and do that. And they had a 220 class. I'm like, hey, I can do that. So here I am at 240, January 1 of 2017. I'm thinking, all right, man, let's go ahead and get this. By the time April rolled around, I weighed in at 216. So that gave me some time to go ahead and kind of redo that. Now, if I really want to push myself, I probably could, but I'm a little older now. I'm on the, you know, the back half of 48. So, you know, for me, it's just, it struggles. However, I've had tournaments where I'm kind of going, all right, I'm going to 2 tournaments. Do I do this or do I do that? So here's one of my dilemmas. And then I'll see if you two have ever had this before. Now, so you know the Arnold qualifier is back, right? You guys know that, right?
Correct.
And thank God they got a left hand now. Sweet. And they offer a 220 class, and there's also a 242 class. I'm like, cool. You know, and I'm like going, I can probably make 220. Here's the problem. So Tim Talmadge, real good friend of mine, awesome guy. One of his qualifiers is in December 14th in Washington. Cool, no big deal, right? Problem is, if I cut to 220, I will still be in that 239 class the month prior at the World Series of Arm Wrestling Finals in San Diego. So it's like, I got a dilemma because they're back-to-back months. I can stay around 235, you know, and just go, okay, you know what? I'll do that because if I cut the 220, I'll still be in that 239 class regardless.
Correct.
You know, say, forget it, do the 242 class, I'll be fine. So have you two ever been in a situation where there's 2 tournaments you want to go to, but they require different weights, and then you kind of go, okay, what do I do?
Okay, so, I'm gonna give my opinion first and let Chris, because he's gonna like this. Because when I cut down to 165, I was saying, you know what? I bet I could make 154 for Worlds because I'm sitting at 165 walking around now, right? Christopher's like, nope, Dad, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. You're crazy. I'm not gonna let you go, because he puts common sense into. We have this team that when I'm doing something stupid or silly, he tells me about it. And if he does the same, I tell him without no arguments, So he keeps me at ground level, even though I'm saying, man, I'd be a great arm wrestler at 154, and I'm only, a few pounds off, and I know I could cut. And it's like, nope, you're not doing it. Forget it. You're just not going. And so we keep each other on level and logical grounds like that. And that's the best part of having a father and son team, because when they say it, they don't say it just to be rude or mean. They say it because it's the truth. And we don't hold back on the truth. That's the best part of our relationship. If we don't hold back on the truth, if it hurts our feelings or not, we're still going to say it.
Yeah.
Now go ahead, Chris, give them your opinion.
No, that's right. So he got to 165 and he was feeling frisky, telling me he was dropping to 154. I told him no. And the logic was, you dropped to 154, how much strength are you losing? How competitive could you be? And the thing is he hasn't been 154 since probably before I was born. So and his body is not used to regulating at that weight, or you don't have that much body fat that he's used to. And by decreasing your calories and decreasing all of that, you're not going to be worth anything. So if you stay at your 165 or your 172, where you're always maintaining and you're always at, your body's going to function at a higher level to where you're more competitive.
No, I totally agree with that, and there comes a time where, what I used to do is that I would give myself a 5-pound increment that, when I was, because there's not a lot of 220 weight classes in my neck of the woods. It was always, okay, hey, you're at the 198 class, and then the next class up would be 199 to 242. So it's kind of like, okay, fine. I think that's where, I kind of let myself go at certain times, because it's like, well, there's no 220 class, so what's the point? But they'd offer some here and there, and then I kind of go, okay, well, the most I want to weigh is 225, because then I can cut 5 pounds easy. It's not as hard as cutting 10 or 15, And then even I got older, I was like, okay, you know what? With old age, weight comes on. That's just how life is sometimes, I was never a cyclist or anything like that. I never did a lot of cardio, tons of it, It's just when you do a lot of weightlifting and stuff, and you just tend to put on the weight. That's just how, that's how life is. But, I know that, I was like, okay, going into last week's tournament in Fort Worth, I was like, 239. Okay, cool. I'm around 235-ish, whatever. I just got to make sure I don't go too crazy, because there was some barbecue that needed to be eaten when I was down there. So I was like, hey, let's go ahead. I got to the hotel, Greg came down with the scales, like, Greg, you better do this. My stomach was rumbling. Jamie Sheldon, he was like, dude, I'm like walking on death's door, because Jamie was around 209, give or take, not too long ago. And then he had a match in Montana with my man, Mr. Clifton Erickson. And he said after that, he was cutting back down to 176. So I know he's been working on doing that. And he looked like, I'm like, dude, you all right? Like, I almost want to carry him, And he weighed in, he made weight. All right, now I got to go rehydrate. So man, I get all that kind of stuff you go through. I think for me, I just can't see myself doing that over and over every tournament. I just gotta watch what I eat, when I eat, whatever, and go, if I'm gonna make this weight class, I gotta be on point, And that's the one thing that people kind of forget. We talk about the training, we talk about the workouts and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of us tend to forget about, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I need to be, So y'all agree with that?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I think one of the hardest parts, especially when it comes to weight, is when you go to a tournament, it's going to be, from what I see, is 2 different weight classes. You're going to be 198, or it's going to be into the kilograms, which I think that comes out to like 188.6 pounds. That's your 2 fluctuations. So whenever, like, that's the IFA weight compared to, like, I call like the TAL weight. Or whatever. So you got to decide, man, that's a 10-pound difference. Which way are you going to go? For me, if I'm weighing 198, I'm not going up to 209, just because, I'm right on that little edge of being able to drop drop down. So for me, I try to maintain a weight of about a 194 to 195. That's my goal, is to really keep it right in that line. Because if I have it in that line, I can pee 4 pounds out. I can do it. Done it before. I drink that much water. So I can drop to that weight, or I can just keep on going and weigh in at for 198. So it's about keeping that healthy balance, but I will not dehydrate and cut down anymore because I lose too much strength.
And once you find that happy medium, it all makes sense. So one thing I forgot to ask you guys, table time or weights, what works best for you guys and why?
So for us, we lift a lot of weights. We do a lot of cables on the table. Then we also we hold a practice. We're doing it more often, but we do it once every 2 months. We'll hold a practice at the house. We do like going to see other people to practice, but I think you have to have a healthy balance. The problem is if you like that table time, because when we go to any practice, get any table time, we're going to hit it, and we're going to hit it hard. When you do that, that's going to take away a certain amount of days of training that you're going to lose. And so you got to be able to balance. Am I wanting to train really hard up to this point, and then I have to figure out the fact is I need 3 days off to let myself heal so I can go back to the normal workouts after you do that table time practice.
Yeah, what do you think, Tim?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. We'll go to a practice, and because of who we are, it seems like everybody wants to pull us no matter how big they are. None of the small guys want to pull us, just the big guys. And then they want to beat up on you, and we go to a practice, and we'll get beat up pretty bad. And, we're there trying to learn, but everybody else, they just want to see how, they want to slow pull you and just beat you up. And, so, it's a totally, going to get beat up on an arm wrestling table, you got to have time to recover. Like Chris says, you got to give so that takes away from your arm wrestling, your workout time. But, have you ever seen the table that Chris and I work out with and train with?
I have not.
It's called two things: old school table and a dog leash cable is what we use.
Ooh, I want to hear about this.
Our table is from 1986 and it's still standing and still working great. And our pulley system, we put a dog leash cable on it, and that's what we use for our pulley system.
Hey, whatever works. And the reason why I asked you guys that is because, being in the sport a long time now, and I've tried this method and that method back there. And one has to wonder, there's no one perfect way to train for this sport because everyone's built different. You can go on one aspect and go, oh, okay, well, I can do all like the Todd Hutchings where I got all the angles and he does all the math because he's an engineer. On this side, you got the Michael Todd where it's just I'm grinding till I can't grind no more. You got the John Brzezinks back there who sit there and go, you know what, it just waits. I've done it before, but it's never did anything for me. I'd rather got table time. So I guess at the end of the day, one may say you have to find out what works for you. Whatever that may be, you got to find out what works for you. Do you agree?
Now, I'll tell you what, the best practice I have ever been to in my life, bar none, is when Christopher and I went to Brazil and practiced with Gabriela and Wagner. The sportsmanship was out of this world. The hospitality, the teaching, it was a teaching training session plus hard pulling. I mean, bar none. In my personal experience, that is the best practice I have ever been to in my life.
Nice. And
I would highly recommend going to Brazil and practicing with the Brazilian arm wrestlers. Their straps don't even have a buckle on it. You hold your thumb tight to hold the strap in. And if you pick your thumb up to let go, the strap is out. And then they call you a few names. I don't know what names they would call you, but It's really funny. But there's no strap on it. It's just a sheer, the strap, no buckles on it, and you hold the strap down with your knuckles. It is really, really interesting.
I like that. And I tell you what, when it's an eye opener when you go to a different country and you compete, or you find out you pick the brains. As I told people before, when I got the opportunity, because now this sport's about opportunities, right? And I got given a lot of opportunities. I got opportunity, to, link up with Greg Sharp, awesome guy, by the way. And he's given me opportunities to compete on a level that, hey, I accepted it. Neil Pickup's another guy. I was fortunate to have the, opportunity to go over to Manchester, England, and compete over there at the Arm Wars. And when you got guys on the international level that go over there, and I'm sitting down there talking one Sunday morning after the Saturday night event, and I'm just broken down. I have so many matches, and I get up the next morning, I'm having coffee, and Maynard Ninjas, and I'm talking to him, and I'm picking his brain, and I'm like going, well, how many guys do you have on your team? That's how we speak in America, team. He told me, oh, we got about 25 to 30 guys in our club. Just the way he said that was like, wow. He goes, yeah. So what we do, we train for like 4 to 5 hours. It's half you guys on the table getting table time. The other half are on the weights. Midway through that practice, they all rotate.
Yep.
And I'm like going, and I'm in awe because what I thought I was doing was something. And then I go over there and that dude's telling me what they do. I'm like, man, I need to get my butt in gear. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And that's the same thing in Brazil. Their team is very strict as far as the rules go. They train hard and they work with you. And when we got there, I think there was about 60 people there. We normally don't work out with about 60 people. And but it was, the atmosphere was out of this world. Everybody, and it seems like everybody wanted to arm wrestle Chris and I. And we first get there, and there was a couple guys that were grandmaster pullers, and they were waiting to pull. Of course, they wanted to pull the old man because they're within 15 years of me. And so we pulled, and it was real exciting that I had grandmasters that wanted to pull against me, so I can see where I'm at across the world.
Right.
And the experience going there, is worth everything. If you have a chance to go there to practice with them, you will learn more than what you could believe.
Yeah.
What's your take on that Brazil trip, Chris?
It was a great trip. It was that practice was it was a more of an eye opener of just seeing what another level gym could look like. It was purely an arm wrestling gym, and it was, I've never seen an arm wrestling gym like that before. I think there was 16 tables bolted to the ground with all arm wrestling weight machines lined the whole walls. It was just awesome. But the people, they enjoyed it, and they really just, everything came together to where, like, it was an experience of, hey, let me show you what we normally do, because I know, I can tell that you're used to this technique. Let me show you our technique. And it was really a learning process.
And that's the good thing about this sport. It's not like, although we do have some of those handful of people out there, and I don't want to give away their secrets. It's like, look, man, and I've always used this theory, and I want, before this will be my last question, but I've always had this theory. Let's just say, for example, you want to learn a different technique in arm wrestling, and we'll just use the hook for an example, right? I can get 10 people to show me their variation of a hook. Out of those 10, one person's going to say something, and it's going to be like, oh, I get it now. I know how to do this now. Because of verbiage, depending on what they say, how they say it. Someone out there, man, like I said, y'all can tell me a few different ways how to do a certain move, but one of you guys are going to say a key word, the light goes on. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely, and it's not just the way they say it, or it's the way they can put a pressure point on your hand and say, "This is what you should be feeling," or "This is what you should be feeling to make this rotation to do this." And yeah, it's that one person that can relate or has a certain way of saying it. Everyone can be doing it the same, but it's the way you can associate it with different people.
Right.
And this is what I always say: if somebody comes over and practices with us, we always tell them, okay, I'm going to show you how we do it, but let's figure out how you do it the best.
Right.
We're going to give you ideas on pulling the hook inside, pressure, hand pressure down, whatever it takes. We're going to show you our way, but we're not telling you to arm wrestle and pull our way. We're telling you, this is a way, but your style, because everybody's arm, everybody's wrist is totally different.
Right.
If they were all the same, there would never be a great match, because they would always be the same. That's why we're so individually different.
Right.
What works for me may not work for you, but works for you, but it may not work for me, but it works for Chris.
Yeah.
So we teach everybody that, and Chris and I open our home up to, a couple weeks ago, or last month, we had somebody from California call us on a Thursday and want to know if they can have a Sunday practice. And we're like, yeah, come on over. We don't stop. When somebody calls and wants to practice and we're around, we always say yes if we can. And that's what we're all about. We don't mind helping people. We don't have and we work out in the garage when it's 105 degrees. So if you don't like the heat, don't come.
Well, 105-degree weather, I mean, y'all might be cutting weight anyway. Well, gentlemen, we've been over here for over an hour now, and I know, Tim, you got on kind of late, but you know what, though? It was very informative what you said on there. And gentlemen, like I said, this was a long time coming. Finally, we got a chance to actually put this thing together on the show. Is there anything else y'all want to add before we put a bow tie on this?
Absolutely. Can I say one thing real quick?
Please do.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much for inviting us on your show. It's a true blessing. We greatly appreciate it. There's nothing more than the friendship and fellowship of competitors. And then another thing, this is really important. Team Popeye has the greatest fans in the world. That's what I'm talking about. The greatest fans in the world.
There it is. Y'all heard it first. A force to be reckoned with. But first things first. IFA Worlds in Greece. You got Tim, right? Then
That's
you got,
right.
November 2nd, WSA Finals. But more importantly, and I have to keep saying this, I don't want to disrespect any of the Texans over there. They will not be at Texas State. However, get ready for Tennessee, because Team Popeye is going to roll into that Great American Bash and make some noise, and I can't wait for that.
And nothing is out of the question. It depends how we feel when we get back from Greece. Because sometimes your head gets bigger than your arms, and you just show up. So you never know. We just might show up. You never know.
So let me ask you this.
I pulled in 24 tournaments, 9 super matches in 24 months.
Okay, see?
So nothing is out of the question.
Here's a question before, and I know I was going to, Dan Plexman says, any super matches coming up for Tim and Chris? There you go. There's the last question of the day.
Not before World. There's no sense taking a super match for me where there's a great chance something might twist, pull, or pull. Even when we went to World Series of arm wrestling up in Dallas, for me to jump up into the master super heavyweight division and giving up that was pretty stupid on my part, honestly. But I couldn't turn down the challenge. When he said he didn't have it, I couldn't turn down the challenge. So no super matches for me before Worlds, unless somebody offers me a lot of money to pay for my trip to the Worlds, and I might accept it. If they offer me a lot of money, you never know.
Never say never, right?
That's right. You never know.
Well, Tim, Chris, once again, thank you for coming on the show. And you know what? We might have to run this back after, Worlds and just kind of check in and go, okay, let me know how it was. Give me your thoughts, because I think I'm going to have a lot of people, especially after that Tennessee event, come on the show. Dude, tell me what happened. Give me your thoughts. So, hey, how about this? Let's keep in touch. What do you think?
Absolutely. Just remember, age is just a number. And Team Popeye is going to go strong for a long time. I promise you that.
There you go. Gentlemen.
Woo, that's what I'm talking about.
There you go. Thank you for joining me on the show. I'm going to let you guys get on with your day on this magnificent Monday, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
All right. Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care. So that was Team Popeye. As you know, they are very enthusiastic. And like I said, I thought there was an actual team. It's just them two. So, they bring all kind of charisma every tournament they go to. So with that being said, I'm going to put a bow tie on this show. But that's only the first show, because later today, I got Mr. Earl Wilson, Hall of Fame, Canadian Hall of Famer, multi-time Canadian national champion, multi-time WAF world champion. He's coming here tonight. And trust me, you don't want to miss that one. That will be taking place at 6:30 Eastern time, 3:30 out west. So then, we'll see you then. See you when I see you. Y'all take care. Be good to one another. It's going to be fun.